In November 2014, the leaders of Saudi Arabia made one of the biggest bets in history. They bet against Texas, and they've already lost. So writes Glenn Hegar in an audacious editorial in the Wall Street Journal. You may recognize Mr. Hegar's name. He is the Comptroller of the state of Texas. Mr. Hegar, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Great to be with you today. Thank you.
You know, I say audacious here because the charge you seem to be leveling at the Saudi government is that the Saudis kept pumping oil in hopes of, at best, killing off the expansion in energy production here in America, but perhaps even killing off the Texas energy boom directly. Do I understand that correctly?
No, I think that's definitely a part of this op-ed, that if you look at the continued increased production and the Saudis have not scaled back, that OPEC made a decision not to scale back their production to, in essence, drive prices lower, that was directly targeted in part to try to kill the renaissance of fracking and the continued explosion through the United States of fracking and oil production. And in particularly, that falls squarely more so on Texas because Texas is the largest producer here in the United States.
Now, you admit that on one level it made sense. I mean, if the Saudis could drive down oil prices by keeping their production up, they'd make it so that they could stop this U.S. energy comeback, and the economics of oil, extraction and production, certainly here in Texas, would no longer make sense, right? I mean, that's a sense, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the parts of this strategy is that how do you put a stop to the higher cost producer? And a lot of the theories of the higher cost producers are those that are in the shale formations. And really, if this would have been done 4 or 5 years ago, I think the strategy would have had a much more significant consequence on the long-term impact of fracking production here in the United States. But in essence, the renaissance of this technology is unbelievable. And my point is this. We see lower prices today, significantly lower prices. And there'll be a lot of further consolidation of companies. There'll be further bankruptcies. But in the end, this fracking boom is not going to go away.
Now, but let me ask you about that, because we've been hearing a lot, reading a lot in the paper about falling rig counts and the like. And in fact, oil prices have in fact fallen below where you projected they would fall by this time, of the year, down below $40.
And everyone else's projections too at the time.
That's true. That's true. Isn't this though precisely what the Saudis and OPEC more generally were trying to force? I mean, in a sense, haven't they succeeded?
Well, they've succeeded in lowering the price of production and the rigs falling down, but on the other hand, what is going to cause the prices to go back up? And the point of my op-ed that the Saudis took a historical gamble and they lost, and that is really looking out into the future. I'm not saying that that's going to happen tomorrow, but that's going to happen out in the future years. And the reason is this, is because if you look at Saudi Arabia today, yes, their cost of production to getting oil out is extremely cheap, but they're a one-stop economy. Oil and gas is it, as much like the Middle East of all the economies. And so therefore, the point being is they can't sustain these lower prices. And that's where they've ultimately lost, is because from an economy, they're losing billions of dollars every single month. And they're digging into their reserves to help subsidize their economy.
In the meantime, we have a more diverse economy in Texas, and so you see cities like Dallas and Austin bragging about the growth and the comeback of jobs and that sort of thing that are unconnected directly to the oil economy.
And that's one of the other points of the op-ed, is that a lot of people at the end of last year, as oil prices were falling, several mentioned that Texas is going back to the 1980s, the oil bust is here. Texas is not the 1980s. It's a much more diverse economy, and you pinpointed in Austin as well as the Metroplex. And those two economies, at least if we look at sales tax collection, and why sales tax, because that's the biggest source of revenue to our state government, and our announced numbers every single month, and those two economies have continued to do extremely well over the course of the last several months.
He's the Chief Financial Officer of the state of Texas. He's the Comptroller Glenn Hegar. His editorial, his op-ed, appears in the Wall Street Journal on August 31st. We're going to have a link to it at texasstandard.org. Comptroller, thank you very much for taking time to speak with us.
Great to be with you today. Thank you.